Thank you so very, very much. It is wonderful to be here with all of you, to be in New York with my family, with so many friends, including so many New Yorkers who gave me the honor of serving them in the Senate for 8 years. To be right across the water from the headquarters of the United Nations, where I represented our country many times. To be here in this beautiful park, dedicated to Franklin Roosevelt's enduring vision of America, the nation we want to be, and in a place with absolutely no ceilings. You know, President Roosevelt's four freedoms are a testament to our nation's unmatched aspirations and a reminder of our unfinished work at home and abroad. His legacy lifted up a nation and inspired presidents who followed. One is the man I served as Secretary of State, Barack Obama. And another is my husband, Bill Clinton. Two Democrats, guided by, that will make him so happy. They were and are two Democrats, guided by the fundamental American belief that real and lasting prosperity must be built by all and shared by all. President Roosevelt called on every American to do his or her part, and every American answered. He said, "There's no mystery about what it takes to build a strong and prosperous America. Equality of opportunity, jobs for those who can work, security for those who need it, the ending of special privilege for the few, the preservation of civil liberties for all, a wider and constantly rising standard of living." That still sounds good to me. It's America's basic bargain. If you do your part, you ought to be able to get ahead. And when everybody does their part, America gets ahead too. That bargain inspired generations of families, including my own. It's what kept my grandfather going to work in the same Scranton lace mill every day for 50 years. It's what led my father to believe that if he scrimped and saved, his small business printing drapery fabric in Chicago could provide us with a middle-class life, and it did. When President Clinton honored the bargain, we had the longest peacetime expansion in history, a balanced budget, and for the first time in decades, we all grew together, with the bottom 20% of workers increasing their incomes by the same percentage as the top 5%. When President Obama honored the bargain, we pulled back from the brink of depression, saved the auto industry, provided health care to 16 million working people, and replaced the jobs we lost faster than the historical average after a financial crash. But it's not 1941 or 1993 or even 2009. We face new challenges in our economy and our democracy. We're still working our way back from a crisis that happened because time-tested values were replaced by false promises. Instead of an economy built by every American, for every American, we were told that if we let those at the top pay lower taxes and bend the rules, their success would trickle down to everyone else. What happened? Well, instead of a balanced budget with surpluses that could have eventually paid off our national debt, the Republicans twice cut taxes for the wealthiest, borrowed money from other countries to pay for 2 wars, and family incomes dropped. You know where we ended up. Except it wasn't the end. As we have since our founding, Americans made a new beginning. You worked extra shifts, took second jobs, postponed home repairs. You figured out how to make it work. And now people are beginning to think about their future again. Going to college, starting a business, buying a house, finally being able to put away something for retirement. So we're standing again, but we all know we're not yet running the way America should. You see corporations making record profits with CEOs making record pay, but your paychecks have barely budged. While many of you are working multiple jobs to make ends meet, you see the top 25 hedge fund managers making more than all of America's kindergarten teachers combined, and often paying a lower tax rate. So, you have to wonder, when does my hard work pay off? When does my family get ahead? When? I say now. Prosperity can't be just for CEOs and hedge fund managers. Democracy can't be just for billionaires and corporations. Prosperity and democracy are part of your basic bargain, too. You brought our country back. Now it's time, your time, to secure the gains and move ahead. And you know what? America can't succeed unless you succeed. That is why I am running for President of the United States. Here on Roosevelt Island, I believe we have a continuing rendezvous with destiny, each American and the country we cherish. I'm running to make our economy work for you and for every American, for the successful and the struggling, for the innovators and inventors, for those breaking barriers in technology and discovering cures for diseases, for the factory workers and food servers who stand on their feet all day, for the nurses who work the night shift, for the truckers who drive for hours and the farmers who feed us, for the veterans who served our country, for the small business owners who took a risk, for everyone who's ever been knocked down but refused to be knocked out. I'm not running for some Americans, but for all Americans. Our country's challenges didn't begin with the Great Recession, and they won't end with the recovery. For decades, Americans have been buffeted by powerful currents. Advances in technology and the rise of global trade have created whole new areas of economic activity and opened new markets for our exports, but they have also displaced jobs and undercut wages for millions of Americans. The financial industry and many multinational corporations have created huge wealth for a few by focusing too much on short-term profit and too little on long-term value, too much on complex trading schemes and stock buybacks, too little on investments in new businesses, jobs, and fair compensation. Our political system is so paralyzed by gridlock and dysfunction that most Americans have lost confidence that anything can actually get done. And they've lost trust in the ability of both government and big business to change course. Now, we can blame historic forces beyond our control for some of this, but the choices we've made as a nation, leaders and citizens alike, have also played a big role. Our next president must work with Congress and every other willing partner across our entire country. And I will do just that to turn the tide so these currents start working for us more than against us. At our best, that's what Americans do. We're problem solvers, not deniers. We don't hide from change, we harness it. But we can't do that if we go back to the top-down economic policies that failed us before. Americans have come too far to see our progress ripped away. Now, there may be some new voices in the presidential Republican choir, but they're all singing the same old song. A song called Yesterday. You know the one. All our troubles look as though they're here to stay, and we need a place to hide away. They believe in yesterday. And you're lucky I didn't try singing that too, I'll tell you. These Republicans trip over themselves, promising lower taxes for the wealthy and fewer rules for the biggest corporations, without regard for how that will make income inequality even worse. We've heard this tune before, and we know how it turns out. Ask many of these candidates about climate change, one of the defining threats of our time. And they'll say, I'm not a scientist. Well, then why don't they start listening to those who are? They pledge to wipe out tough rules on Wall Street rather than rein in the banks that are still too risky, courting future failures in a case that can only be considered mass amnesia. They want to take away health insurance from more than 16 million Americans without any credible alternative. They shame and blame women rather than respect our right to make our own reproductive health decisions. They want to put immigrants who work hard and pay taxes at risk of deportation, and they turn their backs on gay people who love each other. Fundamentally, they reject what it takes to build an inclusive economy. It takes an inclusive society. What I once called a village that has a place for everyone. Now, my values and a lifetime of experiences have given me a different vision for America. I believe that success isn't measured by how much the wealthiest Americans have, but by how many children climb out of poverty. How many startups and small businesses open and thrive? How many young people go to college without drowning in debt? How many people find a good job? How many families get ahead and stay ahead? I didn't learn this from politics. I learned it from my own family. My mother taught me that everybody needs a chance and a champion. She knew what it was like not to have either one. Her own parents abandoned her, and by 14, she was out on her own, working as a housemaid. Years later, when I was old enough to understand, I asked what kept her going. You know what her answer was? Something very simple. Kindness from someone who believed she mattered. The first grade teacher who saw she had nothing to eat at lunch and without embarrassing her, brought extra food to share. The woman whose house she cleaned, letting her go to high school so long as her work got done, that was a bargain she leapt to accept. And because some people believed in her, she believed in me. That's why I believe with all my heart in America and in the potential of every American to meet every challenge, to be resilient no matter what the world throws at you, to solve the toughest problems. I believe we can do all these things because I've seen it happen. As a young girl, I signed up at my Methodist church to babysit the children of Mexican farm workers while their parents worked in the fields on the weekends. And later, as a law student, I advocated for Congress to require better working and living conditions for farm workers whose children deserved better opportunities. My first job out of law school was for the Children's Defense Fund. I walked door to door to find out how many children with disabilities couldn't go to school, and to help build the case for a law guaranteeing them access to education. As a leader of the Legal Services Corporation, I defended the right of poor people to have a lawyer, and I saw lives changed because an abusive marriage ended or an illegal eviction stopped. In Arkansas, I supervised law students who represented clients in courts and prisons, organized scholarships for single parents going to college, led efforts for better schools and health care, and personally knew the people whose lives were improved. As senator, I had the honor of representing brave firefighters, police officers, EMTs, construction workers, and volunteers ran toward danger on 9/11 and stayed there, becoming sick themselves. It took years of effort, but Congress finally approved the health care they needed. There are so many faces and stories that I carry with me of people who gave their best and then needed help themselves. Just weeks ago, I met another person like that, a single mom, juggling a job and classes at community college while raising 3 kids. She doesn't expect anything to come easy, but she did ask me what more can be done so it isn't quite so hard for families like hers. I want to be her champion and your champion. If you'll give me the chance, I'll wage and win 4 fights for you. The first is to make the economy work for everyday Americans, not just those at the top. To make the middle class mean something again, with rising incomes and broader horizons, and to give the poor a chance to work their way into it. The middle class needs more growth and more fairness. Growth and fairness go together. For lasting prosperity, you can't have one without the other. Is this possible in today's world? Yes. I believe it is, or I wouldn't be standing here. Do I think it will be easy? Of course not. But here's the good news. There are allies for change everywhere who know we can't stand by while inequality increases, wages stagnate, and the promise of America dims. We should welcome the support of all Americans who want to go forward together with us. There are public officials who know Americans need a better deal, business leaders who want higher pay for employees, equal pay for women, and no discrimination against the LGBT community either. There are leaders of finance who want less short-term trading and more long-term investing. There are union leaders who are investing their own pension funds in putting people to work to build tomorrow's economy. We need everyone to come to the table and work with us. In the coming weeks, I'll propose specific policies to reward businesses who invest in long-term value rather than the quick buck, because that leads to higher growth for the economy, higher wages for workers, and yes, bigger profits. Everybody will have a better time. I will rewrite the tax code so it rewards hard work and investments here at home, not quick trades or stashing profits overseas. I will give new incentives to companies that give their employees a fair share of the profits their hard work earns. We will unleash a new generation of entrepreneurs and small business owners by providing tax relief, cutting red tape, and making it easier to get a small business loan. We will restore America to the cutting edge of innovation, science, and research by increasing both public and private investments. And we will make America the clean energy superpower of the 21st century. Developing renewable power, wind, solar, advanced biofuels, building cleaner power plants, smarter electric grids, greener buildings, using additional fees and royalties from fossil fuel extraction to protect the environment, and ease the transition for distressed communities to a more diverse and sustainable economic future, from coal country to Indian country, from small towns in the Mississippi Delta to the Rio Grande Valley to our inner cities. We have to help our fellow Americans.